What's going on, everybody? And welcome to another exciting, legendary episode of the Deconstructing Topic podcast. My name is David, and I'm your host of the Deconstructing Topic podcast. And wow, my beautiful family that's out there that I was listening, I always said, I hate to sometimes sound like a broken record or one track CD or even a bad MP4 file, you know. But sometimes I try to do my best to do as much a podcast as I can. If it's up to me, I'll be doing like 300 podcasts a week because there's so much to talk about. But I was recovering from being under the weather, a little bit of that stuffy nose and all that. And I also was networking over the weekend, celebrating Latino Heritage Month, a couple of events there. And it takes a toll because, hey, listen, like I always said, I work a regular 9 to 5 job. And then on the weekend, if I'm invited to an event that I know I can make it, by all means, network. So make sure you take care of yourself. And I just sent somebody a voice memo, and I just told them, and it's interesting when you're sick, whether it's the flu, the cold, whatever it is that you got, you're just feeling like, ugh. So once you back to feeling better, you just say, okay, yeah, I'm feeling much better. But I always tell people, and I sent a voice memo to this person, and I said, whenever you're feeling healthy 100%, do something productive. Just do something. And that's why I decided the first thing once I got better to wake up in the morning, hit the gym, do my thing, and do this podcast. And you already know. Feel free to matter of fact, comment, share, all that good stuff. Make it happen. The donation button is somewhere in there. And like I said, I would love to make a lot of podcasts, have time for it, network out there with people, all that good stuff. But it takes a toll, and it takes money, to be honest with you. Sometimes I'm in the hundreds of trying to network and take care of this podcast because this is that podcast, saving a life. Oh, I take it back, saving a mind, saving a life. In the time that I was sick, these couple of days that I was kind of a little bit out of it, stuffy, and I'm still a little bit stuffy, but feeling better. I was watching the Netflix show, watching a couple of shows, the Menendez brothers, and I'm of age. Yes, I'm of age, without giving out my age, that when I was a certain age, the story happened of Menendez, and in hindsight, the story goes that these two brothers, from a rich family, the mother, the father, it's the president of RCA Records or something to that effect. And one day, these two brothers, Eric and Lyle, I believe Eric is the older one by a couple of years, just come out and out of nowhere and just decided to brutally murder their parents. And in hindsight, the story goes that once they did that, they was seeking, money. And there's so much going on in that story that you just be like, yeah, because now they're doing time for life. Is that put them in jail, lock the key and all that crazy stuff. So I recommend for those people that got Netflix. So there's two things there. There's the Menendez show with these two great actors. They did a good job. But, my thing with Netflix, when it comes to some shows, and a lot of shows, especially shows that have to do with something that's real, that happened, they tend to kind of manipulate. And whoever is the person behind this psychological kind of brain map, or if you will, of kind of like pushing your buttons, whoever's behind that in Netflix, I give you props. Because there's a lot of people that would fall into certain propaganda. And I have caught Netflix time and time using certain stories, make it to shows, make it to documentaries, but certainly to shows where they have kind of pushed a certain propaganda. I'm not going to engage in that. We're going to engage, that's a different conversation. And in regards to the Menendez story, is that the way these kids came across is like, wow, they really went to splurge after they killed their mother, their parents. They were just wanting to spend money, use the money, whatever the case, they thought they was going to get away. But hearing the documentary and hearing their words behind bars is that it looks like, Netflix might exaggerated the show to make them as villain as they can to fail, because the other side of the story is that, and especially in this case, Lyle, who have spoken up in regards to being abused, being sexually abused by his father. And my understanding that there's a connection between him and the Puerto Rican group Menudos. If you guys know Menudos, and if you know Ricky Martin, maybe that loca, a beautiful Ricky Martin from the island of Puerto Rico, is that he also dealt with abuse as a young kid from these elders and people that were taking advantage of them. So in other words, there are people right now that are saying, who are kind of vouching for the Menendez brothers to get out of jail, basically on the basis that they kill their parents because they have so much anger. Remember, these are young kids. We're talking about 18, 21. And I'm not trying to find any justification behind the killings of their parents, because my understanding it was a brutal killing, and then their weapon of choice was shotguns. Shotguns are not to make little holes in your body. Shotguns are made to take a chunk of your body, but definitely end you. So one of the things that I was like finding funny and interesting is that there's this group, and while watching the documentary, it's like, wow, they are kind of like a young group. And I think that even in the documentary, they mentioned that because of the abuse that they went through as kids, especially from their father, and the mother knew about it or whatever the case might be, that they just got up and said, you know what, boom. And there's a kind of like a youth movement who, as they say in the documentary, it's part of kind of like the Me Too movement. And I think that the Me Too movement, say that you will, there are people that do tend to see things that are not good in that movement, that they are selective when it comes to the people. And I kind of agree in that sense. It comes in a good light, but what is the Me Too movement? And don't forget that the Me Too movement has started to kind of include men who were abused as a kid. And then this is one of those situations where people kind of like feeling that sentiment where they're not saying it's okay to, murder their parents. It's just, if you're abused, you're just a walking, ticking time bomb. And when you have access to what the Menendez brothers had, guns and money and whatever, even with the part with the money, they still were living life with this dark thing that they were abused, and they were just walking, ticking time bombs. But the only thing is that they thought they was going to get away. That's the sad thing, is that if they didn't catch, we would have been, God knows who would have. I think one of them, Lyle was the one that was thinking about running for senator or something to that effect. Who knows? Who knows? It would have been that dark side of that situation. But, stuff happened. And it's me, again, growing up in that time when this thing was happening. It's under hindsight, these kids were abused. And I never try to justify that's the reason, but sometimes even before these episodes, before these documentaries, these shows, I even was one to say, is there anyone really listening to them? Is there anyone that really believed what happened to them? I mean, I understand that, they use that to say, hey, listen, but that, I guess, did not go well in court. I think someone in the documentary have made a kind of interesting point that if this was in today's modern world, in today's way of thinking, is that most likely there was a good chance that they would have been found not guilty. That the abuse that they suffered through as kids, that it's okay, or how can I say, like, we could understand why they snap and did that to their parents. But I don't think at that time we were ready to understand that you got these young boys, and unfortunately, even at that time, the group Menudo, which is the Puerto Rican boy band, beautiful kids, they're from Puerto Rico, let's go. And other groups, whether it's the, my understanding in England, the soccer Little League team out there was a lot of abuse when it comes to the Boy Scout. At that time, no one, it's like one of those secrets that people just, shh, don't tell nobody. So now that we are opening up, there is abuse. So, just watch it. I've definitely recommended you make that decision. What should happen? Me, even way before, again, the documentaries. And again, this is my view and my view only, is that the way I see it was that We should have heard these kids a long time, 20 years ago. That even by my mind, I didn't. Again, I understand. Let them do time, but we should have listened to these kids. And now, I guess the media now, because of this movement of TikTok, where that's the reason why they did the documentaries. My understanding, or someone have mentioned, is that now we are beginning to hear them. Now we be putting the phone on their ear, on their mouth. I want to hear your side of the story. And that's that. But definitely watch this on Netflix. Definitely interesting. That's what I've been watching. The other story would be Aaron Hernandez, former football player from the New England Patriots, who they just say killed a few people during his lifetime. And there was that one killing that he was found not guilty after the fact that he signed, I think at that time when he was playing with New England, I think it was like a 4-year, $50-something million contract, if I'm not mistaken. Probably a little bit more than that. And that's a lot of money. But sadly, if you're watching the show, so the show's it's on FX. It's on FX Family or something to that effect, but you can find it on Hulu because the FX is part of the family. Is that the Aaron Hernandez, once again, is the football player, former football player, tied in New England Patriots who assassinated someone. And I guess the story goes that he also was part of the LGBT community in terms of his preference, in terms of his actions, that he have some type of relationship with other guys, going back, based on the show, going back to the days of high school. So he kind of wrestled with that for a long time. And even in the show, they have really kind of pumped up that side of thing. And again, it's no justification. And Netflix, they got the documentary. I mean, the Aaron Hernandez story would always be told. And I hate to spoil it for those people who might not know Aaron Hernandez or familiar, is that he committed suicide in jail. Some people speculate that once, they started talking about his sexual preference with guys, in the story, and based on counts from family, I mean, he has a daughter, if I'm not mistaken, is that, if based on what that, if he's bisexual, but the fact that he wrestled with the side of, doing things with guys or whatever, some speculate that that's one of the reasons that he might have decided to end his life. The other would be that he had a life insurance, so he wanted to make sure that his kids, his family got something. So we could go on and on and on in regards to that. The Hernandez story is interesting. And I say this, and I always have said this. So Aaron Hernandez from Connecticut, New England. He goes to college in Florida. Florida Gators with Team Tebow, great team. In the show, the Aaron Hernandez show, they show him out there doing some crazy stuff out there. Again, I know that is for show. You sprinkle something out there. Aaron Hernandez was drafted by the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots of the NFL, National Football League, are located in Foxborough, Massachusetts, which is not too far from Connecticut. So, I've always said, if Aaron Hernandez, whether in college or in the NFL, if he was playing in some West Coast team on the other side of United States, not close to home, I'll be honest with you, we might have, the way I see, we might have a different story. When the New England Patriots drafted Aaron Hernandez, for some reason, all I said, uh-oh, this is not good. Yeah, and that's the crazy story, because I always said, if Aaron Hernandez, and once again, I said New England, Foxborough, not too far from home, if he was drafted like by the Seattle Seahawks, which is like on the other side of the United States of America, for those who do not live in America, let's just say Seattle is just on the other side. And what does that mean? That means that if you're over there in the West Coast, whether, I'm going to say Seattle, let's say, I'm trying to think of a team here, California, Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles would probably fit his lifestyle in the sense of what he was all about. Because I can't say he was like a gangbanger like that. For those who know what a gangbanger, was he rolling with people that was up to no good? Absolutely. But I think Aaron, if you hear the stories, he was a demon between, the people, his former teammates from New England Patriots or the Florida Gators. He was a demon, meaning that he was on his own. He just needed certain things to kind of trigger him. So again, if he's living somewhere far, and when he was drafted by New England, I say, oh, he's done. Because sometimes I always say that some of the best ways to rehab somebody, and it happens to our kids in our hood. When you see people that are up to no good, if you get them far from their environment, that could help in transforming. That's one of the things that I would love to do. And I would love to kind of raise money in regards to that situation, is that kind of in a way to rehabilitate our youth who struggle, is to put them in a spot that they change their environment, because the environment does tell a lot. And then the show with Aaron Hernandez, that they talk about a lot of his sexuality. The other part would be the concussion. Again, concussion would be a thing that it rattles the brain. If you're playing football and boxing, when you're playing a contact sport, concussion, it has to do with your brain. You just, sometimes there's people, we've seen in football and in boxing and in MMA, mixed martial arts, you get knocked down, you get concussed, you land on your head, boom. Sometimes you see people's hands just get all like, they don't even know where they're at. So that's another attribute to Aaron Hernandez and why he did certain the things that he did. Because he was already he was a demon. He was doing some crazy thing. And keep in mind is this, in life, and in general, I say Christian man, we live a life of sinfulness, everybody. And there are those who have these skeletons in their closet and they have a hard time addressing those skeletons. They can't get away. And it's interesting in the show, and not to spoil it, he was having a conversation with Teen Tebow. Teen Tebow from Florida Gators, a Christian kid. And you see how Aaron Hernandez knew that he had demons. And as much as Teen Tebow tried to help him, like again, I'm always going to say this. If he was drafted in a different West Coast team, maybe things would have been a little bit different, because he would not be close to home. The fact that you're playing in Foxborough, Massachusetts, you're just 2 hours, 1 hour, baby, 1 hour away from your home. But I say home, I'm talking about where you grew up, because where you grew up will have residues of who you are, especially if you're having a hard time. Because that's the thing with Aaron. Aaron wanted to get away from, and become a millionaire. He that's why he was having a hard time dealing with the situation and his attitude, his anger problems, the smoking, the weed, whatever the case might be. The dude had a lot of issues, a lot of demons. And he always understood that the way to get out from that environment is to make money. But sadly, when you go back home, my understanding that he had a home in Connecticut again. If he had somewhere, if he was in Washington, again, in the West Coast, maybe things would have been different. So it's an interesting thing, because it's another thing, it's another story where he has a lot of intricate parts of it, just like the Menendez. And that's what I've been watching these couple of shows. And I recommend both. The only thing with the Aaron Hernandez, it's a little cringe, because you just say to yourself, damn, kid, you got everything. You got everything. You got millions. You're making money. You're doing all this. And you just couldn't figure how to overcome your demons. And they said things to say the same could be said about the Menendez. They had these demons because of what happened. And keep in mind with Aaron, my understanding that his father was an important figure, but yeah, he was so tough on them, on his brother as well, that sometimes you would think like that tough love could be a good thing, but sometimes it cannot be, especially after he passed away. So it's one of those deals where, when you cannot overcome your demons, sometimes it's too late. Sometimes you're just going to fall. Sometimes you're just going to break. Sometimes you're just going to just die completely. Pound. And that's my take on those situations. Please watch it. Enjoy them. Let me know in the comments what you feel. You got the Menendez. You got the Aaron Hernandez. Those are stories that we always, for those who are aware of these stories, they will never go away. They will never go away. The Menendez happened like 30 years ago or so, my understanding. And the Aaron happened like 10 years, whatever it is. So much documentary, so much shows. Because, again, these are stories where It doesn't matter who it is, whether you're a psychologist, psychiatrist, scientist, teacher, a football player, a rich person, a poor person, whatever the case might be. There's so much intricate parts of that because you got one person or two kids, Menendez, with everything, just about everything given from birth, and you got Aaron who was the opposite, but who was on the way up, working himself to get this money. Both, you see how it goes? It don't matter sometimes in life. Whether you wake up with a silver spoon or whether you start working yourself to have a silver spoon or to give a silver spoon to your kids, the demons would eventually catch up to you one day. And that's one thing we need to overcome. Well, let's make it happen. Once again, interesting show, interesting. Ooh. More to come. Hopefully, I'm at 100% back. We're doing this better than ever. As always, much love out there to my people that are listening. Please feel free to share. Don't feel free, do it. Let's talk. Let's have these topics. Let's talk about everything and everything. We're making it happen. Much love out there. I'm out of here. Peace. I'm out. Much love.